Hey guys, this is Bobby T, and today I'm going to be ranking the coasters at Six Flags Over Georgia. Why make this? Because I don't have any content to post. I mean, why would I be talking about roller coasters that I can't actually ride in the middle of the week? But anyway, this is a fun park to go to. It is technically my least favorite theme park, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's a good Six Flags park, and they've got a good coaster collection for the most part. So today I'm going to be talking about them. The last visit I had was just actually recently in the middle of October when I went down to the Petite Le Mans race and managed to head off to Six Flags. Their COVID protocols, I think they did really well. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to finally be able to get on roller coasters and stuff again and kind of refresh my brain on the park, as well as pick up one final credit that had been broken down when I was there. So without further ado, we will get into the list. Number 11 is Joker's Funhouse Coaster. This is self-explanatory. It's the kiddie coaster, but it's the best kiddie coaster I've ever been on. They have a interesting little lift hill with the tires and stuff, and then you get yeeted down the drop, which is interesting. And it even goes through an emptied out shed basically, and has to use tires to work itself back up to the station. So it's quite unique. I guess you could say it's well themed for a Six Flags coaster. It's definitely the most interesting kiddie coaster I've ever been on, so for that it gets some points. This is the number 10 coaster, and it's one of the few times you'll see this coaster on a top 10 list, and that is the Dahlonega Mine Train. This is the mine train of the park, Arrow I think. I don't really know or care. And it has 3 lift hills. Wow! And they're all very short and rather boring, but it goes through the woods, all the pine trees. They have about, 10 of them. And it's okay until you realize that you're being jarred around a lot and that the track was not really profiled for anything except Roller Coaster Tycoon. Overall, it's rough and boring, but I would ride it to get the credit. It's not like, unbearable or anything, and it's a nice little break if you are, I wouldn't say it's the best just after eating lunch, but still, I had fun on it in a weird way, but that doesn't make it a good coaster. It was kind of horrible. So, anyway, that's number 10, Dahlonega Mine Train.
Ow! 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 Okay, why did I speak too soon? Ow! 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 Oh god, this is gonna... Ah! Now we're dead. Ow! Ow! Ow!
Number 9 is a pretty decent coaster, but it's just too average. That is Blue Hawk, which is a Vekoma rebuild, or basically retracking and retrains of the old Ninja, which was basically built to chop your head off like a Ninja. And it is very smooth. The track, you can still feel it rattly and shaky, but you don't bang your head any, which is nice. Basically the vest restraints really help that out a lot. To where it can be a comfortable and smooth ride. There's a lot of good head choppers. It's built right over a lake, and there's lots of supports, so you get a lot of good head chopper elements where you do go pretty close to some of the supports. However, it's just really bland. There's not anything really interesting about it. It does the usual loops and corkscrews and inversions, but it doesn't have any real special elements or special feelings. Like a lot of the aerodynamics coasters, even if they are pretty rough and painful, they still have like the really cool corkscrews where you get hang time or you feel some forces. Here you kind of just feel like you're being rattled around, but you're not banging your head, and it's not that great. It's decent. It's just very, very average and just not anything to really write home about. It's a ride, and it's probably a good coaster for kids to ride their first looping coaster. There is a very, very long lift hill, which is good because it means you get to contemplate all your life decisions and how you ended up at Six Flags in Georgia and why you're not riding Goliath just a short distance away. But overall, it's not bad at all. I ride it for the credit, and it was pretty fun. Sort of. That's why it's at number 9. Number 8 is a rather interesting choice, and I didn't get to ride in any road that I really wanted to, but I mostly just rode it actually because I thought it was going to be extremely painful. That is the Great American Scream Machine, and this is a really rough, just old wooden coaster, so you think. And it is rough, but the thing is, it looks slow and boring, but it goes through its layout pretty well. There was a bit of retracking done to it, and I haven't ridden it since then, especially on like the drop and stuff, or maybe it was repainting, retracking, I don't know, because I'm not in the whole coaster loop of things right now. But basically, I rode it in 2019, and it hauls through the layout. There's a lot of good airtime, and it is super rough, but it's almost a kind of lovable rough. Like, this coaster would be boring without it. Kind of bouncing you around, and the old, you know, squeaky brakes and all that, and the wheels. I think it's a PTC coaster, something like that. I'll like flash it across the screen. I'm so out of coasters right now, but it's just a great ride, and it's ranked number 49 out of 94 coasters I've ridden. It was just lovable. It was starting to rain, and it was a hot day, and it was just nice. I enjoyed riding it. The queue is a bit tight packed, so we didn't ride it during October this year, but it's still definitely worth a ride if you can get to it. And I definitely need to get back and ride it more towards the back rows, because I know it's going to be rough, but it's still a good ride, and something unique. It is a Ace roller coaster landmark, so check that out if you're there as well. Number 7 is a coaster that's opening there again in 2021. That is Mindbender, which is becoming like the Riddler Mindbender or whatever. I don't know. I wish it kept its original name, but it was looking pretty fresh in its new paint when I was looking at it earlier. Of course, there's still a good bit of retracking to do, but this is just an old Schwarzkopf looping coaster. I'd heard some good things about it, but no, it was really fun, and the good part about it is that it's smooth. It is a smooth ride. It's just a lap bar. And you get some good forces. I was graying out on some of the loops, and it works with the terrain pretty well. There's a waterfall nearby, and you kind of like breeze past it. There are 2 loops, so 2 inversions on the ride, and it was just fun. It's something you don't expect. It was very little wait time, and it was just a good time. And I definitely think it'll probably get more popular because they'll rebrand it saying it's new with the name change and all that. But it's there, and it's been around for a while. It's a classic, and it's definitely worth riding when you visit. We're getting into some coasters that are a little more than mediocre here and pretty close together. This is number 6, Georgia Scorcher, which is a B&M stand-up coaster. Depending who you are, and you know what I mean, this could be a great or really bad ride experience, but I was fortunate to have a really fun time on this. Standing up on a coaster can be uncomfortable, but the way they have it set up, if you get the seating right and don't like let it like jack your legs up, it's a comfortable experience, and it's fun because the way you're standing, it's really weird going down the drop, and then the rest of the layout is really tight packed. So overall, you're getting, even though it's a pretty small footprint, it's still a really fun ride, and the inversions are good too. And the main reason, of course, that's good is just it's unique and it's smooth. It's not super headbangy or anything like Vortex at Carowinds. It's just a really solid ride, and it's not something you should skip out on if you're worried about it or concerned about it. Into the top 5 now. This was one I unfortunately don't have any video of running or with video glasses or anything because I did not have them on this trip. That is number 5, Daredevil Dive. This is a Gerstlauer Eurofighter. It's one of 2 that I've been on, and it was pretty decent. I was expecting a little bit more, but of course the crazy part, the selling point of this coaster and coasters like it by Gerstlauer is the vertical lift hill and the beyond vertical drop, which is a really crazy feeling. That element alone kind of makes the ride, obviously. It's really weird being directly vertical and feeling like you're going to slip out of your seat, even though you know that obviously you can't. And then the beyond vertical drop is just crazy. Falling over yourself at 100-something degree angle is pretty spectacular. The rest of the ride is just kind of meh. It's not great, but it's still fun. It's a unique layout. The cars are unique to any other Gerstlauer Eurofighter. It's got 3 rows of 2. Which unfortunately made operations slow because you can only go with your group during COVID. It still wasn't a super difficult wait. It moved pretty quickly, and the ride itself, beyond the vertical drop, nothing spectacular, except the end. I do remember there was a nice hang time element with that slow roll near the end when you're heading into the brake run. There's some tunnels, and there's little bits of elements of kind of theming as if you're a Daredevil like flying your plane, but nothing super spectacular. It's Six Flags theming though, and it was a good time, definitely worth the credit, and glad I could ride it. Number 4 at this park, and I considered moving this up to number 3, but I'll stick it at number 4 for now, is Superman Ultimate Flight. This is your typical B&M flying coaster, although they're not super typical, as you well know. There are very few of them in the United States, but this is the most cloned one, obviously, at Six Flags Over Georgia, Six Flags Great Adventure, and Six Flags Great America in Illinois. So yeah, it's a fun ride. This is the original one. This one actually works with the terrain around it, so you will fly in and out of some tunnels, I believe. No, it didn't go into any tunnels. I think it did. I can't remember. Here, use this video footage as proof to either of my words. And it also kind of zooms right by some grass and some hillsides and stuff like that. And then of course the first drop into the pretzel loop is always a really crazy experience, feeling like you're being kind of crushed into your seat. It's one of these smaller pretzel loops on flying coasters, but it's still really fun and you get all the forces. The other inversions are weird as well because you're upside down, kind of, but you're also right side up, depending on how you look at it. Do the math or the physics. My brain is highly confuzzled, but you can figure it out yourself. The reason this ride is good is because it's wacky. If you rode it as like an invert or something, it would be extremely boring, but it's not an invert, it's a flying coaster, and therefore it's number 4. Logic. Number 3 is something that really surprised me, and I think a lot of you guys can probably guess what it is at this point. It is Batman the Ride, the B&M inverted coaster. The reason this is so good, not because it's like super fun or super good big drop or anything, no. It is basically an inverted RMC. My legs and feet by the end of this ride through the helix were basically numb. The blood was practically rushed out of my head because this ride is so intense and so tight, and I've heard a lot of other people say, even though this is the only Batman the Ride clone that I've ridden, it absolutely hauls through its layout more than any of the other ones with that small little drop and then immediately gets right into a loop, and towards the second half especially, it gets super tight and whippy, and because there's not a ton of room that it has to work with, it feels like just a tangled mess of track, and it keeps up its speed. I don't know how, but you are still flying throughout pretty much the entire layout, and yeah, it is extremely whippy and extremely intense, and you feel it in every bit of your body, and not in a bad way too. It's extremely crazy what this ride manages to do, so that is why Batman the Ride is sitting at number 3. Number 2, and there are only 2 coasters at this park that are in my top 25, that is Goliath, the B&M Hypercoaster. I had a lot better rides on this when I was here in July of 2019. I think it was running better, and I didn't keep getting put in mandatory middle rows where you can't move. I was about to punch someone. Calm, it's okay. It's alright. It doesn't matter. Anyway, they're all just rows. Just be glad that you got on a coaster! But I was able to get in a lot more rows. I rode towards the front, and I rode in the very back and in the middle, and it had a little bit stronger forces. And one thing that was very prominent this last time I rode it is that it was super rattly. I mean, I felt like if someone had fillings, they would be gone for sure. My braces felt like they were practically, the metal must have been like clicking around, I don't know. But it was very rattly, all exaggerations aside. And that took a lot of the fun out of it, and the thing is, I just didn't get that much airtime either. I know this thing can run well, and it can be elite, but it's just, like, weird. I don't really understand it. I know a lot of people love it, and I know a lot of people think it's kind of meh. I'm definitely in the crowd that thinks it's kind of meh. I've had good rides on it, and, like, the helix is definitely insane, especially when it's running really fast. But this particular ride, it didn't do it for me. That's why it's at number 2. And let's not fool ourselves here. We all knew it was going to be number 1. Their new RMC in 2018, so still pretty new. Twisted Cyclone. This coaster is, of course, a hybrid conversion of the old Georgia Cyclone, and it's great. It's fantastic. They used what little space they had and turned a short ride into a masterpiece. It is in my top 15. And they start out with a little fun section in the beginning with those sideways little airtime hills, followed by, of course, the lift hill, as all things do. The first drop is great. I think it's just the angle and the way it twists. You get sent out of your seat. It's a short but super powerful first drop. And then the next inversions are really solid. And this ride has some really nice quick pops of ejector airtime. And they're placed in good spots too. While it's obviously not going to be as much or as long as any other of the RMCs, making it the weakest, overall, its elements that it does has, I would say, are much stronger. It just does a really good job of packing in a punch in the little time it has to do so. Night rides on this thing are awesome as well with the lighting, especially in the back row. I was lucky enough to get one back row ride on it when I went as my final ride of the night in October. And it's just a great coaster. It's hard to marathon because it does get really busy, especially after the first like 30 minutes of the park being open, but it's still great. There's only one thing I would warn you about, is it is pretty easy to get stapled at the bottom of the first drop, so place your knees or whatever parts of your body you need to accordingly to have the lap bar not come down on you, and you'll get an awesome ride experience. So that is my fairly sarcastic and not really remembering everything and wanting to get this video done quickly and out of the loop on coasters video on my ranking of the roller coasters at Six Flags Over Georgia. And not poking fun at this park, this was a great place to visit. Of course, I love all theme parks, but it's still a good park. Even if some of their coasters are sort of average, you can still come and have a good day here, especially if you continue to lap Goliath and Twisted Cyclone. It's a really fun time. I won't be back for a long time. I don't feel like I have the need to, but I was glad I was able to experience it while I was able to in October and get the last credit of Daredevil Dive. I now have 94 credits, so 100's coming next year. I beg 100 comes next year. I don't know where, but there's a couple parks I have in mind, hopefully once COVID's all gone, that I can hit up. So that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed these kind of rambling videos of me not quite understanding the laws of physics in the universe, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more future content. I don't know what kind of roller coaster content I can make. Maybe I'll try and do some stuff on Planet Coaster, but in the meantime, expect a lot of sim racing things, maybe some real world racing updates, and not much travel because I have absolutely nowhere to go. But anyway, that is it. Thanks for watching. Stay positive and live on.